Good morning, everyone, at NESA Spring Educators Conference in Bangkok 2019. I'm Dr. Sanja K, and I'm absolutely honored to facilitate this workshop for you today. Before I start, I would like to say a huge thank you to NESA for supporting this virtual endeavor and to my amazing colleagues at AIS Kuwait who are there with you, Samantha Florent and Dr. Janet Al-Sabah, who are attending the NESA conference with our team lead, curriculum director, Christina Palpel. Unfortunately, I could not join you in person today as I got delayed and stuck at Bangkok airport due to visa issues. So if paperwork is not on our side, I hope that technology is. So let's see how this goes. I was able to connect virtually to the coaching and coachability course with Steve Bartley and the learning group, and I was able to take lots of good notes and gain many valuable insights. I'm also an instructional coach at AIS Kuwait, and AIS Kuwait is a full international baccalaureate continuum school. I hold a doctorate degree in instructional design, but my degree is definitely not my highest trait when it comes to my profession. It is the heart, the passion, and the love I have for education. Ever since I was in grade 4, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And with teaching being the profession of all professions, it has been really rewarding for me to coach teachers for growth. My hope for this presentation is that it will inspire you to create something amazing like a collaborative coaching culture, or simply give a boost to an amazing culture that you have established in your professional academic environment. From a practical hands-on point of view, my hope is that you will walk away with some useful coaching strategies, in particular questioning skills, with a toolkit in your pocket. The first thing I want to say about my job is that I love my job. I enjoy my job so much that I almost feel guilty when I get paid. I enjoy building people up. I get to focus on their strengths. I get to focus on what they can do. I help them figure out their own internal source of power. I enjoy in watching teachers confidently teach and confidently speak in meetings. I enjoy in watching them take off. We as a team get to take teachers, see other teachers teach. Every day we get to participate in the best professional development that there is in education, and those are learning walks. There is no seminar, conference, or workshop that is as insightful as learning walks. And when I say learning walks, I'm referring to a group class visits where a group of professionals visits a classroom and engages in professional discussions on teaching and learning, so that groups of professionals walks in as observers, as learners, in a non-judgmental and non-evaluative way. I've organized the objectives for this workshop into 3 main segments, and this is a shortened version of my workshop. First, I will offer a case study overview where you will learn about coaching for growth at AIS and how we have established the culture that will live today. Then we will explore coaching in action to understand the tools, practices, and strategies. And finally, we will end with a role play activity where you will practice coaching conversations. Okay, ready? So how did we get to the open door culture and the era of feedback? It all started 3 years ago when we moved away from subject-specific titles such as literacy coach, tech coach, to hire first instructional coaches that had literacy and technology as our very narrow expertise only and not the only focus of a coach. So in other words, the role of an instructional coach included much more than literacy programs or tech integration. I want to describe how each of these years felt and looked. So in year 1, which was 3 years ago, and that was also my first year in my role as a coach, we felt uncertainty and fear. There were lots of close coaching relationship with this layer of transparency with this layer of confidentiality that was actually prohibiting transparency. It wasn't helping anyone. And this model was basically based on a deficit model where we were assigned or sent to fix and to problem solve. In year 2, it still felt a little bit intimidating, but courageous, as we've made first bold attempts in piloting learning walks, and we've gathered our middle-level leadership as the International Baccalaureate Program coordinators, our administrators and coaches, and grouped ourselves in triads and set a goal to visit every teacher's classroom in a huge school of 260 staff and visit each teacher once in the next month. So we've scheduled those learning walks in our daily schedules, and we introduced this to our staff, facing minimal to none pushback. Teachers have expressed concern about our presence being a distraction for students, about catching them unprepared, and we've reassured them, not to say deflected the concerns, but we've reassured them in stating that we weren't inspectors or the police, but were non-evaluative, non-judgmental observers as learners, practicing our own observation strategies and wanting to close the gap between teaching and learning happening on our campus and our leadership understanding how teaching and learning looked and what our students were able to do. So in learning walks, if not teacher directed, we felt confident in conversing with students, asking them what they worked on, what they were supposed to do, and those experiences were valuable for us a lot. That year, year 2, was a year of professional development, having the focus on differentiation, and we recognized as a leadership team that our teachers were doing a great job in differentiating for interest and choice. And we recognized that there was a lot of room for improvement in differentiating per readiness. So we identified a list of look-fors together with our teachers, asking them how it would look if we've seen differentiation per readiness in their classes. And we used that list almost as a lens in our class visits. Year 3, which is this year, it finally feels safe and fulfilling. The instructional coaches team has been in classes, on all classes. We've been taking teachers, visit other teachers, and it has been helping in establishing the prophecy in the culture of learning, which states that if the supportive coaching culture is founded in trust, built on vulnerability and desire to improve, it will unmistakably lead to improvement in teacher practice, which will then affect growth in student learning. We live this through our mission, which states that instructional coaches at AIS Kuwait are committed to improving student learning through building a culture of collaboration and growth through reciprocal coaching relationships that focus on effective teaching strategies. I want to know what you think. What stands out to you in this mission? Turn and talk for 2 minutes. Sam or Jeanette, you can pause my video for 2 minutes. And then after turn and talk, share highlights with the group. How does it look? How does this prophecy become a reality? Who lives this mission and how? I introduce you the instructional coaches team at AIS Kuwait. This photo is taken in the shared learning commons space with us heading out on learning walks on the left, collaborating on an affinity mapping protocol in the middle, which led us to defining our instructional coaches team goals that inform the project board, that the goals in the middle that inform the project board that you can see on the right. The project board in particular has made a huge impact on our team dynamics, as it is adding to the team's transparency as among ourselves, the same in front of any random teacher or admin walking into our suite. How we got to the project board structure, it's an interesting process. So we were brainstorming what we wanted to document, and then we expressed a desire to keep each other in the loop and to know what's going on in our lives and in our work at school. Then we wondered how we could have a bigger picture of our roles and all the bigger projects that we were involved in. So the affinity mapping protocol that you could see in the previous photo resulted in identifying the columns that presented the categories for bigger projects. So every day we start our days with a 10 to 15 minute board briefing, which is a short meeting with 3 focusing questions that guide our discussion. First question being, what have you accomplished yesterday, which is a good reflection tool and serves for keeping each other up to date and up to speed. Second question being, what do you plan on achieving today, which sets a clear target, and when it's shared with the team, there's a higher chance that it will happen. And then the third question, asking if there are any issues and obstacles standing in your way, where we listen and try to coach each other for resolving these issues and dilemmas. And this project board is also substantiated by the divisional master bell schedules, which are hanging from the bottom, and the divisional yearly calendars. And those are the necessary documents that we need in figuring out logistics, especially in scheduling learning walks with other teachers and other leaders at our schools, such as heads of departments and grade level leaders and administrators. How does this look in our days and on our calendars? Looks like this. Coaching days are pretty busy. They are full of check-ins with teachers, check-in with admins. We pack our schedules with unit planning meetings, modeling strategies, observations, PLCs, and all the other miscellaneous minutia that eats your day. So if it's scheduled, it's likely that it's going to happen. And if it's not scheduled, then danger. It might not happen. I touched on learning walks earlier in my presentation, and I think I owe you a full outline of how this works. So learning walks are class visits where a group of observers walks in a classroom as learners. Other teachers, leaders, and admin join us in order to learn more about teaching and learning happening on our campus. So what we do, we pre-conference before we go. We form in a triad and we set a focus for observation. Early at the beginning of the year, from day 1, we started the learning walks, and our focus was looking for indicators of establishing routines and procedures in the classroom, as it was early in the year and as it was an appropriate thing to do. I cannot tell you enough about the good feedback we've received from teachers after leaving them the thank you notes. The template for these thank you notes was crafted by Samantha, who is, I believe, with you there. Our teachers felt appreciated and praised for the efforts they were doing in their classes, and they felt that somebody was noticing that. And they were getting back to us, telling us that we've made their day, that we made them feel so valuable. They were putting those thank you notes around their bulletin boards, behind their computers, and it was nice for us to see that result in that. That and result as it is. Couple of months into the year, we've navigated to cool feedback. And of course, we never wrote the school feedback on a thank you note and left it for a teacher to digest on their own. Cool feedback was an opportunity to starting a coaching conversation and to starting another relationship, another coaching cycle. And we've always delivered cool feedback, We've always expressed our cool feedback in person, never on a paper. To return to the process of a learning walk, so the observation takes 4 minutes on average, and 4 minutes is enough to get the classroom vibe and the atmosphere. And if the instruction is not teacher directed, we would engage with students, asking them what they were working on and what they were expected to do. After we left the classroom, we debriefed immediately in the close proximity of the class, but not directly next to the class, so that the teacher and the students are not distracted by seeing us talk about them and talk about what we've seen and heard. We always start our debrief with warm feedback, focusing on what we liked seeing, what we appreciated hearing, and then we would navigate to cool feedback that was always couched in "I wonder" statements to make sure that we weren't judgmental or evaluative. And then we would return to our coaching suite and craft those thank you notes that always left meaningful feedback. So, coaching conversations. Hard. For me, when I started in my role, that was hard, as I didn't have the right skill set. And what I want to talk about next is the toolkit for coaching conversations. And before I start, I want you to again take 2 minutes and turn and talk and share your favorite tools in leading professional conversations, professional collaborative conversations with your colleague. And coaches, you can think through the lens of coaching conversations. Simon, Jeanette, you can pause the video. I've chosen 3 of my favorite tools for facilitating coaching conversations. And active listening with being present and paraphrasing after has made a huge difference in my coaching skills. When I started, I didn't have the skill set right up front. My knee-jerk instinct was being a good problem solver. And when a teacher approached me and shared an issue or a dilemma with me, my instinct was just fix it, solve it, make it disappear, because I was good at problem solving. And soon enough did I realize that the more I did for teachers, the more problems I solved, the less grateful they were. It's funny how human psychology works. But the more I did with them, not for them, the more they appreciated me. And of course, now I know what it means, teacher investment and finding your own source of power in order to solve your issues and dilemma. And I understand the value of that. But it wasn't like that from the beginning. The second strategy in my toolbox is questioning and probing, which is still a skill I'm working on. I understand all the philosophy behind it and how it should work. I would just like it to run more smoothly. I often catch myself in the middle of asking a question, pausing, stopping, and thinking of another one that I would want to ask that would fit better. I would want that to run more smoothly. And I'm guessing that experience is what I need to gain in order to get more skilled at this. 3 points of contact. Before I explain the 3 points of contact, I want to say that often active listening and paraphrasing with questioning and probing following next is often enough. This is often enough to not close the deal, but kind of elicit the next steps and make some improvement and make some progress forward. But sometimes it gets tough. People come in with all kinds of stuff. We create a self-vulnerable atmosphere, which sometimes and a lot of times allows teachers even to vent and to feel really safe and express their hard issues. Or I am about to enter a courageous conversation that requires additional skills in my toolbox. So often I use 3 points of contact, and it's funny, my team introduces this. My team refers to this as Sanja's third point. And of course, it's not mine. I think the first time we've heard about it from Steve Barclay's podcasts, And the reason why my team calls it Sanja's third point is because I often refer to this as a solution to all challenging situations in coaching. And I will explain now how that works. So 3 points of contact. One point of contact is the teacher. The second point of contact is me, the coach. And the third point of contact is often a piece of paper. And why a piece of paper and how does this work? I'll give you an example. So let's say that 85% of a class has failed the test, right? So the 3-year ago me would want to say to the teacher, this is not students' problem, this is your problem. You need to reteach it, reassess it, refine your teaching, do it. And now I know, of course, that that wouldn't help anyone, as it would evoke defensive attitude, and it wouldn't help anyone or help us make any progress. So now what I would do, I would preferably have examples of student work with me on that piece of paper. I would have data on this assessment, and I would bring this on a piece of paper. And before making any eye contact, as in uncomfortable situations, eye contact can sometimes make things even worse. So before making eye contact, I would come with my papers, I would sit next to the teacher, and I would make sure that we both have the same understanding of this problem. And only after I've made sure that we agreed on this being a problem, not the teacher's teaching, not the teacher's design of an assessment, but student learning that has showed this failure. Only after we've agreed that that's the problem, then we could together brainstorm and discuss and explore what might be the possible next steps. It's funny how I've noticed that these tools can be easily deployed in a collaborative environment. And I've designed this Venn diagram to illustrate the difference in cooperative and collaborative professional environments. The difference between cooperative environment based on compliance and collaborative environment based on true engagement. So let's take a look of how relationships look in a cooperative environment versus collaborative. Relationships are imposed. In a cooperative environment, therefore, pretty loose, while they are pretty tight in a collaborative environment as they are built. What is mutual in a cooperative environment is respect, because it's often given and it's mandated by hierarchy. In a collaborative environment, trust is mutual as it is earned. What does sharing look like? The team members in a cooperative environment often share short-term goals, while the team members in a collaborative environment share long-term visions and values. Inclusion in a cooperative environment is, I tell you what to do, you follow along, everybody's happy, we cooperate. And that level of engagement is pretty compliant. While in a collaborative environment, everybody is contributing because team members are empowered. Inquiry is delegated in a cooperative environment, and there is this relationship of dependent versus independent. While in a collaborative environment, the team members are in constant interdependence, and inquiry is common. Opinion in a cooperative environment is often suspended. If your opinion is different from the majority sitting at the table, you're not really encouraged to voice it. You're discouraged to voice it because your opinion is suspended. And this fosters congenial relationships. In a collaborative environment, on the other hand, opinion is encouraged, and the difference in opinion is voiced. And this fosters, of course, collegial relationships. So what is the role of a coach in this collaborative environment? What does a coach need to be like in order to thrive and model collaboration in a collaborative environment? A coach needs to be always looking forward, needs to be positive, open-minded, acknowledging, empowering, encouraging, raising the praise, supportive, reliable, dependable, resourceful, having a growth mindset. What a challenge for a personality. A coach always focuses on what can be done, always models curiosity rather than judgment, and has a special ear developed for extreme quantifiers. For example, teacher says, parents don't like this new report card. All parents are complaining about it. A coach would say, interesting. How many parents? Which parents? Who are they? And it often turns out that it's one or two parents, mostly three. Jolie and Killian and Harrison, in their book about roles of coaches, differentiate different roles of coaches, and you can see them here displayed on the left. And I've personally juggled between being a consultant, a mentor, a coach in my roles, and I like this division because it helps. I almost look at it as a lens through which we are approaching an issue at hand. It helps us to know what and understand what is being expected from us. And it helps, I think, so that the coach is not spread too thin in muddy coaching waters, but it helps to narrow a scope in order to increase impact. No matter what the role is, I always tend to apply the backward design way of thinking in mostly if I'm helping teachers plan, but actually in any other scenario. My first question would always be, what should students know and be able to do? Second one, how will the students and you as the teacher know when they are successful? The third, what learning experiences will facilitate their success? And fourth, based on data and student work, how will you refine the learning process? In the longer version of my workshop, I also substantiate this as a part of my coaching binder that I carry literally with me as a bag of resources, because I want to be resourceful for my teachers. So I have charts as this one to kind of bring me to focus, bring me to the center of what I need to think about. And I substantiate it with research. I have Marzano's high yield strategies. I have Hades' work on effects, on top effects. All of that helps me establish my claim in research. And it's serving to not reinvent the wheel, but to answer questions posed by teachers. Or what do I do? When do I do it? How do I do it? However it plays out, there is a universally applicable coaching cycle. And before I get to coaching cycle, there's another thing I remembered. I just want to say that I keep going back and forth between having these files accessible virtually and files being learning contracts, self-assessments, reflection sheets, different templates, organizational charts, planning process charts as this one, the Marzano and Hades work, all of that. I tend to go back and forth between having those documents available digitally and in a binder. And it's funny how there's something with teachers and paper. They almost take it more seriously if it's on a piece of paper. And I always remember Bart Simpson saying, oh, it's in a book, it must be true. So I tend to carry that huge, ridiculous binder with me, and it often helps. It's often a companion. Coaching cycle, no matter what the role is, here's the cycle that is universally applicable to our work. And I call it a vicious cycle of identifying, learning, and improving, as it doesn't always go in this order. It doesn't happen in a linear sequence, and those stages are often overlapping. And it's messy. It's messy work. There are different scenarios that we might find ourselves in when entering a coaching cycle. I have prepared an activity for us. It's a role play activity, and soon Samantha and Jeanette will take over and they will facilitate this activity for you. I prepared little index cards with coaching prompts, and on one side of those index cards there is a context that you need to understand in order to engage in a dialogue that has been prompted on the other side of those cards. And mind you that these are real life scenarios that we use at our weekly meetings to practice coaching conversations. And I want you to know that there are preferably those scenarios started with already coaching relationships being built. Those are not first contact scenarios. So don't be hung up on details that you don't know from before. These are just to give you ideas and to help you start it. So you will pair up in groups of 2. You will choose a role, either of a teacher or a coach. It's interesting how Steve had a role of an observer, and I think I'm going to implement that next time I'm going to facilitate this workshop. I think that's very valuable that the observer is reporting back to the triad with observation notes. So your task is to understand the context described on the prompts, to stay in your role as a teacher or a coach, and to finish the scene. You will engage yourselves in this activity in 2 rounds. First round being with your own skill set that you've brought to this workshop. And the second round, Samantha and Jeanette will hand out the pocket question prompts that I've prepared for you in a little booklet. And that's something that you can take home with you in your pocket. That's the promise from the beginning of this presentation. I want to thank you all for your attention, for watching this video conference, and I'll be always yours in learning. Thank you.